Chapter 1. Why are these banned money secrets? Why write a book about money, prosperity, and manifestations all rolled up into one? As I started to write, I realized that this is the book I have always wanted to read. This is the book I hope I had read when I was first starting out as a student of these universal laws. This is the book I wish I had with me as a guidebook all these years. But it is also the book I waited the longest to write. I wanted to make sure that when I finally put my pen down on paper, that I know the absolute truth of everything sure enough to teach it to others. As I look back on my spiritual journey, I must admit that I've indeed come a long way. I started this journey of seeking and learning, wanting to have a better life for myself and my family. I believe all of you reading this book want the same too for your loved ones. And so, my earliest applications of creative principles and manifestation laws were mainly focused on one key area of my life: my finances. At that time in my life, most of my fears and worries were also surrounding that same area. If you have read my other books, you'll know that I had a difficult time trying to rid myself of those incessant fears and worries until I finally found permanent ways to do it and experience my greater good. Over the years, a new perspective started to emerge for me about money. Much of this new perspective has been shaped by new thought and spiritual authors, which this work is heavily based upon, and whose work I will discuss as this book progresses. Along the way, it is my intention to add my own understanding of these issues and show you the common pitfalls faced by many. As a new perspective unfolded for me, new realities started happening for me. At first, the changes were subtle and gradual, until they finally reached a tipping point where things started happening so quickly and effortlessly. Even I was taken aback with surprise, but after a little pondering realized the fundamental truth for myself with this sweet realization: how else can the universe be but always abundant? While I had previously seen money as a be-all and end-all, something of limited quantity to be attracted into my life through various convoluted means, a zero-sum game of sorts, I began to soften my focus on money and focus more on using these manifestation techniques for other creative applications. I started to focus on living life to the fullest and expressing myself to the highest and fullest through my everyday activities. As I began to soften my focus on money and focus more on life itself, more of life began to flow through me. As I let go of my fears and worries, still more continued flowing until a point where I finally did not have to consciously ask for more, and it would still be there. And it has always been there. The subject of money and finances is probably one of the most contentious and difficult to write about. Part of the problem is because everyone has their own opinions on what money is, how to get more of it, and how you should spend it. Because money is so central to our way of life in this modern society, we have come to associate money with our survival and freedom, to the point that most people would rather die than be without money. Now, it is certainly no laughing matter, but most people are scared stiff when they ponder the thought of not having enough money. I was certainly one of them. Add to that the negative conditioning we have received since young from mass media and from our well-meaning parents on money, and the amount of negative thoughts and beliefs we have to deal with about money can indeed be immensely overwhelming. The pressures of dealing with these negative thoughts and disempowering beliefs can sometimes be so great that it forces people to renounce or give up all material wants, just so as to stop having to deal with money and to get away from it all. Since money is so central to the way our society functions, we are much better off learning how to handle it. I'm not talking about handling money in the conventional sense, as in handling dollars and cents and finding better ways to invest your money. There are already a ton of books on this subject with various authors wanting to convince you that their way is better. What I am referring to is how you handle your relationship with money. More specifically, what are your inner thoughts on this subject? What do you believe about money? What do you believe about people who have money? What do you believe about not having money? All of these inner thoughts have to be carefully managed and dealt with to create an inner state conducive for money, abundance, and prosperity to flow into your life. Readers of my earlier books will find this advice familiar. It is not about the techniques and methods that you use, but all about your inner state and how you feel on the inside. In turn, your inner state is influenced by your feelings and beliefs. Are you at peace and at ease when it comes to money? Or is your inner state tumultuous with you constantly worried about getting and having more? Your inner state will have a direct impact on your reality in every area of your life, and it is the same with your finances as well. If money is not flowing into your life as quickly as you would like it to, or if you do not have as much of it as you like, then you simply need to apply these creative principles to the area of money. Change your inner feelings and beliefs about money, and the money will start to flow for you. Because there is so much emotional charge around the subject of money, one often mistakenly believes that manifesting money is way more difficult than manifesting anything else in their life. Believing that money is more difficult to create is one of the most common stumbling blocks applying these universal principles. The universe simply does not discern between what you ask for. It does not judge. It simply is. Energy flows readily to support your intentions and desires if you are aligned with them. Therefore, asking for money is no more difficult or easier than asking for, let's say, a cup of coffee. It is all one and the same. It is also for the same reason that I avoided writing a book on manifesting money for the longest time. I was concerned that writing such a book would send a message that manifesting money entailed different techniques or principles from manifesting anything else in your life, such as good health or good relationships. But bear in mind that these principles are universal. They work for everything and for everyone. Therefore, the fundamentals of these techniques will always be the same no matter which area of your life or which subject you choose to apply them to. I finally decided to write this book because there are many ways to which general manifestation techniques can be fine-tuned to apply to the area of money and finances. This book does not teach a separate set of universal principles. Rather, they are about the application of manifestation laws and techniques specifically to the manifestation of money and leading to a more abundant life. Much of this book will be based on my own personal experiences and how I dealt with what was going on within myself most of the time. As I often tell my readers, if you can do the work needed and get yourself into a non-resistant and conductive state for manifestations to occur, then outer circumstances will match up to your inner desires very quickly. The amount of time it takes for outer circumstances to match up is the amount of time you need to get your inner state to that conducive place. Because your inner state is completely under your control, you can make these changes at any time and at a moment's notice. For the longest time, authors and philosophers have been trying to find a common thread that runs through all successful and wealthy people. I have read books suggesting that all wealthy people invested in real estate, and therefore, the author too advocated that all of us invest in real estate as a means of growing and preserving our wealth. I have read other books which suggested that wealthy people give regularly to charity, and therefore, the author proposed the same. The truth is that people out there are always trying to find certain characteristics and habits that would supposedly allow us to be wealthy and rich. No matter what characteristic you find, I'll almost certainly be able to give you an exception to that rule. For example, I would be able to tell you stories of individuals who made money through the internet instead of real estate. I would be able to tell you stories of wealthy people who hardly gave to charity. I would be able to tell you stories of wealthy people who are actually quite nasty. Does this all start to make sense now? Money and wealth is not something you do on the outside. It has nothing to do with external physical traits. Sure, you may grow your wealth through certain means, for example, through real estate, but that is merely how you grow your wealth. It does not explain how you came to acquire it in the first place. Or sure, you may have acquired your wealth through real estate, But that, once again, is a form of physical action. It does not speak to how you acquired that wealth mindset in the first place. What we're really talking about in this book is the wealth mindset. And even this phrase is loaded with connotations and meanings because so many authors have been using it over and over again to refer to different things. Some talk about wealth mindset, while others talk about having a prosperity consciousness. There are tons of books out there focused on building a prosperity consciousness, and I have read a great many of them. But I can tell you that most people who read them hardly achieve any success or desired results. Why? Because most books on prosperity consciousness are still focused on doing external forceful actions, trying to force you into that state of prosperity consciousness. One's consciousness cannot be artificially raised or elevated. The change or shift in perception has to come from within you. It took me a long time, almost a decade, before I stopped reading any of those financial self-help books on the market. Each book I picked up seemed to advocate a different strategy or habit that has obviously worked very well for the author. But the mistaken belief is that this same strategy will work equally well for someone else. Let's put that a little differently. An author who has stumbled upon certain strategies or techniques for making money is, of course, excited and passionate enough to share it with as many people as possible, believing that he has found the way. However, why that technique worked in the first place for him was not due to the external actions or step taken, but due to the author's inner state. His inner state was aligned with his outward actions such that whatever method he used subsequently produced the results for him. Therefore, if you copy his outward methods without a corresponding shift in your inner beliefs, whatever methods you are using will not work for you. I have seen this at work time and time again in the business world. An individual would hear upon a new business opportunity or venture and somehow it would click with him so much that he genuinely believed it would work. As a result of his strong belief, he changed his inner states and perceptions so much that the venture did indeed turn out very well. The reverse, of course, is also true. An individual tries to set up a new venture because someone else tells him it would be as easy as following what another person was doing. He goes into it without really changing his inner state sufficiently for it to work, and it does not. Two individuals doing exactly the same outer directed actions, but only the former experiences desired results. You'll hardly hear me talk about outer directed actions in this book. I think this world is filled with too many of them, and that is not where the real focus lies. After having read over 100 books a year consistently for the past few years, I have come to realize that there is no shortage of books wanting to teach you many different outer directed ways and quote-unquote actions to achieve something. But for every 1,000 or perhaps tens of thousands of books focused on outer directed action, there is only one book that takes time to talk about the inner work. Perhaps it is because the inner work is unglamorous, thus it is often neglected. This is a book that takes the time to walk you through the inner work necessary for you to get into that place of prosperity within you. I can sincerely assure you that when you get to that place within yourself, the results will begin to show in your outer reality, regardless of whatever outer directed method you chose to use. This is what is often referred to as the Midas touch. Have you ever seen individuals who just seem to have that magic touch? That whatever they touch turns into gold, whatever business venture or investment vehicle they choose brings returns for them, and they move effortlessly from one financial success to another? Why is that so? It is never about the external form of what you do. It is always about what's happening on the inside. Pay attention to what happens on the inside. If you are so rich and prosperous on the inside to the point of overfilling with abundance, then you can just be sitting somewhere quietly by yourself and people will rush to give you money. I know, because I have experienced this time and time again in my life. It is my sincere wish that reading this book elevates you to new possibilities and new states of mind. Remember, that if at any time you are tempted to look outside of yourself and follow the latest method or fad, that you stop and gently remind yourself of the importance of doing the inner work. The inner work is what makes the outer work you do possible. Without an inner foundation or a strong inner state in which you build upon, you'll find yourself subject to the mercies of outer circumstances, recessions, the economy, and the whims and fancies of other people. Until and unless you put your faith in the universe, the full possibilities would not be apparent to you. It is the intention of this book to show you, in the gentlest way possible, how to do so.